This is WHO TV 13 Des Moines.
There are new signs tonight that Donald Regan is being forced out as White House Chief of Staff. And there's new evidence that Oliver North destroyed key documents in the Iran arms scandal.
NBC Nightly News, reported by Chris Wallace.
Good evening. Donald Regan's long, grim battle to hang on as White House Chief of Staff appears to be nearing its end. A member of the Reagan cabinet tells NBC News the president has finally decided Regan must step down. The cabinet member said he would be, quote, very surprised if Regan lasts another week. But tonight, a source familiar with Regan's thinking told NBC News Regan still does not intend to leave. Jamie Gangel reports now on the battle for power inside the White House.
When the president was asked about the future of his chief of staff, there was no ringing endorsement.
Waiting for the tower report.
But privately, White House aides say Regan has got to go and that the resignation may come even before the Tower report. Said one aide, "We are getting hammered on this. When the Tower report hits the streets, Regan has got to be gone." And a senior administration official added that Regan's recent behavior, such as hanging up on the First Lady, indicates that he is, quote, out of control and acting irrationally. All that's missing is Regan's replacement. But aides say there is a list of contenders. At the top are former Transportation Secretary Drew Lewis and Energy Secretary John Harrington. And the list also includes the president's longtime friend Paul Laxalt and former Legislative Affairs Assistant Kenneth Duberstein. What we're looking for, said one presidential aide, is someone with impeccable credentials and no controversy. This weekend, the First Lady herself was making calls to friends for suggestions. Aides say the president's change of heart became apparent earlier this week when the president was asked about Regan's future.
Well, this is up to him. I have always said that when the people that I've asked to come into government feel that they have to return to private life, that's their business, and I will never try to talk them out of it.
That traditionally has been the president's way of suggesting an official should resign. But this latest push to oust the chief of staff also comes at the same time as another embarrassing revelation. This time suggesting that Donald Regan ordered a cover-up. The chief of staff is reported to have been deeply involved in an attempt to protect the president from the fallout of the Iran arms scandal. Newsweek magazine says that Regan directly instructed the national security staff to work late into the night to develop a sanitized version of the events that would minimize Ronald Reagan's role. There seems to be no written proof that Regan gave the order for a cover-up, and Regan's aides denounced the whole idea as, quote, a damn lie. But this latest revelation is seen here as the end for Donald Regan. Jamie Gangel, NBC News, the White House.
There are also damaging new allegations against former NSC official Oliver North. North's personal secretary has been given immunity by the independent counsel, and she's told investigators she helped North destroy key evidence. More from Jim Miklaszewski.
Oliver North emerged from his home Sunday to face still one more scrape. His former White House secretary has told investigators she helped North destroy a mammoth stack of key NSC documents, apparently related to the Iran arms deal. North did not confirm or deny the allegations.
I have told consistently anybody that I ever worked with that they need to do nothing to lie, to protect anybody in this, that everybody ought to tell the truth.
North's former secretary, Fawn Hall, has been granted immunity from prosecution. And she's told investigators that on the night of Friday, November 21st, she and North spent 1 hour in the White House basement shredding documents. Hall's attorney called the shredding routine.
They periodically shredded documents there.
So this was not something that Colonel North ordered?
No, not to my knowledge.
That day, President Reagan had met with Attorney General Edwin Meese. They ordered a Justice Department review of White House involvement in the Iran arms deal. 7 hours later, North began destroying documents. But not all of them. The next day, Saturday the 22nd, investigators uncovered evidence that Iran arms money had been diverted to the Contras. On Sunday, the 23rd, North himself was questioned for several hours and revealed the Iran-Contra connection. Some of the destroyed documents were preserved and recovered from computer files. But administration sources say there's no way to know if everything has been saved. All this, combined with reports that Chief of Staff Donald Regan ordered the NSC to protect the president in the Iran probe, has led to speculation the White House may have been involved in obstruction of justice.
It looks as if a number of members of the White House staff will be convicted, and some of them will go to the penitentiary.
Former Watergate prosecutor George Frampton says it's given him a sense of deja vu.
These are things that appear to be going on now in Irangate, and they are very similar to the steps that led President Nixon and his highest aides into a cover-up in Watergate.
Meanwhile, one government source says if Oliver North did attempt to cover up, it wasn't a very good one. Said the official, all North managed to do was shoot himself in the foot, not save his neck. Jim Miklashevsky, NBC News, Washington.
Coming up on NBC Nightly News, 4,000 Syrian troops have moved into Beirut, where they say they will show no mercy in disarming private armies. In France, Jim Bitterman looks at the destruction caused by one terrorist, whose trial begins in Paris tomorrow. And he made pop art popular. The colorful life of Andy Warhol, who died today.
This is America's cup of coffee, Taster's Choice. And this is the cup that commemorates the American victory. Free from Taster's Choice. See specially marked jars, and you can bring home America's cup. Some coffee brands use chemical solvents in decaffeinating the coffee. But Taster's Choice does it naturally, using no chemicals, just pure water and oil from the coffee bean itself. The choice for taste is Taster's Choice.
Look to Northwest. We're working hard to give you all our best. Look to us, Northwest.
Northwest presents mini prices to many places. Mini prices to many places. Many more places than any other airline.
Some sorority, your sink's clogged.
Because the homecoming queen washed those golden curls again.
Hey, it could be greasy stuff, food, not just my beautiful hair.
Doesn't matter. Get the all-purpose drain opener, Crystal Drano.
What about liquid plumber?
No, Goldilocks. Liquid plumber may not work on some clogs. Drano works on hair, food, grease.
Will Drano hurt our pipes?
No, not even plastic pipes. There's also liquid Drano. Liquid plumber can't beat it.
What's your name, tall, dark, and invisible?
Never mind. The one name to know is Drano.
Syrian troops rolled into Beirut today. Their mission, end the anarchy caused by battling militia factions. Battling that killed more than 300 people just last week. As Rick Davis reports, the Syrians are warning everyone to lay down their weapons.
A Syrian soldier in the early morning hours on the outskirts of Beirut. The cheering is from the Shiite Amal militia, Syria's closest ally in Lebanon. A militia beaten on the streets of Beirut by Druze forces. To Amal, Syria is here on a rescue mission. By morning, Soviet-supplied armored units were rolling in. Syrian forces number 4,000, including tough special forces units. Their commander says they will show no mercy in the attempt to disarm the militias. Quite a job. There are about 40 private armies in Lebanon under the command of various warlords. Walid Jumblat, leader of the Druze militia, now the most powerful in Beirut, says he will surrender his weapons.
I'm ready to bring all my arms from the Shuf and from West Beirut here to Damascus if this is needed.
Jumblat says it's time for all the militias of West Beirut to unite against their real enemies, Israel, America, and the Christian forces. And these Christian leaders voiced strong objections to the Syrian move. But the Syrians would not allow their words to be broadcast from here in Damascus, only these pictures. There are others who fear these Syrian soldiers. Palestinians predict they will try to invade their camps and disarm PLO fighters. The Amal militia tried that and failed. The real test for the Syrians may come if they try to move into the southern suburbs, the strongholds of Hezbollah, the radical followers of Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini. They could test the will and the might of the Syrian forces. Rick Davis, NBC News, Damascus.
13 Israeli soldiers were wounded today when a grenade blew up their jeep outside the old city of Jerusalem. 5 civilians also were hurt. The grenade went off as an Israeli patrol passed the Damascus Gate. Dozens of Arab suspects, mostly young Palestinians, were rounded up for questioning. In Syria, the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine claimed responsibility. Finance ministers from 6 industrial nations reached agreement today to halt the slide of the dollar and on other steps that Treasury Secretary Baker hopes will reduce America's enormous trade deficit. Paul Miller reports from Paris.
The finance ministers delayed making any formal announcement until they were sure they had an agreement to stabilize the dollar against the German mark and Japanese yen.
We all agree that the time has come for a period of stability, and we will act accordingly.
With the recent drop of the dollar on financial markets, Europe and Japan became increasingly nervous. The Reagan administration allowed the dollar to free fall to cut America's trade deficit by making foreign imports more expensive and American exports cheaper. Japan, which relies heavily on sales of cars and other goods to the United States, slipped towards a recession as the dollar dropped against the yen. Other countries had similar problems. So the ministers meeting in Paris this weekend were ready to give in to American demands in order to stabilize the dollar.
Germany and Japan have agreed to take some significant policy actions to help us resolve the imbalances between us. That is, the big trade deficit in the United States and the big surpluses in those countries.
The German minister announced a bigger than expected tax cut to stimulate the economy, increase imports, and cut the trade surplus. Japan also promised to boost its domestic economy. But the Italians, apparently upset over being excluded from preliminary sessions, pulled out of today's meeting. While the ministers say they've reached a substantive agreement, many experts will be waiting for the verdict tomorrow from the financial markets. That could have a lot more to do with whether the dollar goes up or down than anything that was agreed to here. Paul Miller, NBC News, Paris.
Your work never seems to end.
That's why we stand behind every Whirlpool appliance with our 24-hour Cool Line telephone service to help with problems or questions, and our national network of authorized tech care service outlets. Whirlpool, quality appliances.
We're making your world a little easier. Whirlpool.
I'll take that with climate control and 6-way power seats. Gotta have that.
How much can you save on 18 new Buick models? It's your option. You can save up to $1,200.
Aluminum wheels. Yeah, that'll look sharp.
Sounds good,
huh? Power windows.
You can take your savings as a cash rebate. Apply it to the down payment or the lease payment. It's a better time to buy. So see your participating Buick dealer for details now.
Grand touring suspension.
Buick, where better really matters.
Ooh, and I want the concert sound system.
U.S. Sprint keeps building, not just a link or a few lines of fiber optics, but the first and only 100% fiber optic network clear across America. With more fiber optic cable in place right now than AT&T. So U.S. Sprint can keep giving you the best overall savings and give you the clearest connections in long distance. Call U.S. Sprint. We're building the first and only 100% fiber optic network clear across America.
French police today arrested 4 of that country's most wanted terror suspects, the leaders of a group called Direct Action. Police say the group has been implicated in some 80 attacks since 1979. On Weekend Journal tonight, we take a look at a terrorist on trial, a Lebanese extremist named George Ibrahim Abdullah. The case against Abdullah appears to be strong, but after a bombing campaign demanding his release, some in France say trying him is just too dangerous. NBC's Jim Bitterman reports on just how hard it is to bring a terrorist to justice.
Someone wanted to get George Ibrahim Abdullah out of jail. Wanted him released badly enough to kill and kill again. With bombing campaigns in Paris that from December of 1985 to September 1986 took the lives of 13 people and injured more than 150 others.
Despite the months of carnage, the French did not release the accused terrorist. His trial opens here tomorrow morning. A trial not just of Abdullah, but for the entire system of French justice.
Few here understood when this former Lebanese schoolteacher was arrested on relatively minor charges 2.5 years ago how important a terrorist he might be.
10 people like him in the whole world who know as well all the secrets of the Middle Eastern terrorist scene.
Xavier Ralpha, a French author, now has a fair idea who Abdullah is.
He knows the Armenian terrorists. He knows every single terrorist Palestinian group, and he knows a lot of things. So right now in the Middle East, a lot of people are afraid that if he might talk to the French police, for instance, it would be very, very dangerous.
For Ralpha, Abdullah's involvement in terroristic crimes may go as far back as 11 years, to the murder in Beirut of American Ambassador Francis Milloy. Abdullah is as well often linked to the attempted assassination of American charge d'affaires Christian Chapman. He is more clearly implicated in the murder of Israeli diplomat Yaakov Barzamantov, in the attempted assassination of American Consul General Robert Homey, and in the assassination of U.S. military attaché Charles Ray. It was the Ray assassination that led the United States to put diplomatic pressure on the French to bring Abdullah to trial.
French police, while checking an apartment Abdullah rented in this building, had discovered the gun used to kill Colonel Ray and Israeli diplomat Barzamantov. But at that very moment, other French authorities were apparently preparing to let Abdullah go free.
In Abdullah's home village, members of his family had taken a French diplomat hostage. Now they wanted to exchange him for their brother who was sitting in jail in France. By all accounts, the French government agreed to the deal. In any case, the diplomat was set free, but George Ibrahim Abdullah was not, almost certainly because of the American pressure.
I think it was a moment President Regan wanted to show his determination to fight.
After hiring George Kijman, a local lawyer, the United States, for the first time ever, became a direct participant in a French criminal case by pleading against Abdullah on behalf of the widow of Colonel Ray. Abdullah's lawyer claims that if the United States would not have put pressure on the French, his client would have been freed long ago.
Because without this intervention of the American government, the case should not have gone until the court, but the file should have been closed before.
There are today scores of people who still pay for that decision to hold Abdullah for trial. They are the victims of the bombings that began when the government refused to let him go. 21-year-old Marie Valentine Perot walks the boulevards of Paris wearing a mask to hide her horrible scars. Claude Landis, on his way with his fiancée to pick out wedding clothes when a bomb went off, never did get married and will be undergoing therapy for years. The victims of the bombings want vengeance, not concessions to the demands of Abdullah and his friends.
I think it's clear that he's an accomplice to this act of murder.
For Evan Galbraith, the American ambassador to Paris when Colonel Ray was shot, there is no doubt about Abdullah's involvement in that crime, nor what his punishment should be.
Force is essential to defending yourself against terrorists.
Some experts, like Richard Clutterbuck, agree.
Because all experience shows that if you release people like that, they will kill again.
But French terrorist author Ralpher disagrees.
If I was the Minister of Justice, for instance, I would do everything I could to get this guy out of France as soon as possible. Maybe it will look a little soft, but it's that or hundreds of people killed.
On Paris's Champs-Élysées, the military police, after a 4-month absence, were back again this week checking identity papers and searching the garbage for bombs. 1,000 extra police have been put on duty for tomorrow's trial, and the government is bracing itself should the bombing wave begin again.
With a special court of magistrates hearing the Abdullah case, it is said that the government can practically obtain whatever verdict it chooses. If so, then the question that is really being tried here is whether an accused terrorist can become so dangerous he must be set free. Jim Bitterman, NBC News, Paris.
When minor arthritis pain gets a hold of you need the warming power of Bengay. Bengay's penetrating warmth starts relieving pain fast, right where it hurts most. So break the grip of pain with Bengay.
You can't sleep. There's pain. Now, break the barriers of sleeplessness and pain with Unisom Dual Relief, a new formula sleep aid plus aspirin-free pain relief. Tonight, take new Unisom Dual Relief.
Let me just run that through the computer for you, sir. Hey, you know I was all set to go tarpon fishing in Tampa? But no. Piedmont starts offering these incredibly low fares. And the next thing you know, they need extra help in reservations. Now, to take advantage of these incredibly low fares, you have to buy your tickets in advance. And I'm telling you, these planes are filling up fast. So you better call Piedmont or your travel agent today. Yes, sir. You just got the last seat on that flight to Tampa. That could have been my seat.
Dad?
Oh, Julie, look at your hay fever.
Well, she hasn't had a sniffle all day. And I'm ready to dance all night.
Thanks to research by Dow's pharmaceutical subsidiary, millions like Julie may now find relief from allergies without the drowsiness often associated with allergy treatments.
You can make a difference in what tomorrow brings.
Save me a dance.
'Cause Dow lets you do great things.
While investigators continue to pore over records from the Reagan White House, the papers of a former president, Richard Nixon, continue to fascinate 12 years after he resigned from office. NBC law correspondent Carl Stern had a first look at some of Mr. Nixon's most confidential papers.
Since Richard Nixon left the White House, he has succeeded in keeping his presidential papers under lock and key.
But now NBC News has seen some of the Nixon records at a government warehouse.
The files show, for example, that Nixon fought to retain control of the White House tape recordings after an expert he hired, Charles Allen Wright, advised him he had a slightly better than even chance of winning in the Supreme Court. The president lost 8-0. Watergate Judge John Sirica had demanded the tapes. The documents show that especially irritated the president's secretary, Rosemary Woods, who urged in a memo that Sirica be investigated. 2 weeks later, she was hauled in front of the judge herself to explain an 18-and-a-half-minute gap in the tapes. The files reveal that the current Chief Justice William Rehnquist, then at the Justice Department, supplied so-called attack material on opponents of the Supreme Court nomination of G. Harold Carswell, later rejected as a staunch segregationist. Rehnquist himself was appointed, according to the files, when Nixon rejected his staff's advice to name Howard Baker and Caspar Weinberger. The president and top aides wanted the aging but still powerful J. Edgar Hoover to resign. They prepared a script word for word in which Nixon was to offer the FBI director the job of consultant to the president, complete with office, car, and driver. It is not known whether Nixon did before Hoover's death a short time later.
And the Nixon White House appears to have had people churning out supposedly spontaneous letters from the public.
The president asked to have critical mail sent to a Vietnam War veteran who claimed that American soldiers were committing atrocities. And when Nixon became annoyed at something he saw on NBC News, he asked Jeb Magruder to arrange complaining phone calls. Magruder replied it was too late to have them appear spontaneous, but added that he had alerted the letter-writing operation, and NBC will receive a series of written complaints from irate listeners. Carl Stern, NBC News, Washington.
A statewide manhunt is underway in Illinois for a dangerous criminal who escaped from the maximum security prison in Joliet by hitching a ride with a movie crew. The convict convinced the crew, which was making a film in the prison, that he was a member of the prison staff. Then he joined them as they drove out the front gate.
Louis Rich breast of turkey. So lean, so light. Slice it for tonight.
Wow, turkey.
For tomorrow.
Wow, turkey.
Anytime, carved and cooked whole from the bird. Its natural shape says it's juicy and delicious. Louis Rich makes turkey so easy, so tonight.
Turkey.
So luscious, so light. It took Louis Rich to make turkey so right.
Freedent's the one. If you've got dental work, you've got 3 great reasons to chew Freedent gum. You know Freedent won't stick to your dental work. And Freedent freshens your breath. But maybe you didn't know that Freedent moistens your mouth. So if you hate a dry mouth like I do, chew Freedent.
Freedent's the one that took the stick out of gum. And Freedent moistens your mouth. Yeah, moistens your mouth.
Freedent moistens your mouth and freshens your breath.
Take on today the pros and cons of mandatory testing for AIDS.
I'm Jane Pauley, also Bob Hope, Harry Hamlin, and Raymond Burr.
Join us this week on Today.
I guess all Americans grew up eating Wheaties and dreaming about being a champion. To actually bring the cup back home to America was a dream come true.
The stars race the wind, the best has just begun. Taste the glory that you find when you're the champion.
Wheaties salutes the America's Cup champions.
Wheaties, breakfast for champions.
Finally tonight, the death of two people who had an impact on American culture. David Susskind was a producer who won 27 Emmy Awards, but he is better known by most Americans as a talk show host, one of the first to syndicate his own show across the country. Susskind died today in New York City at age 66 of natural causes. Andy Warhol died today of a heart attack. He made art out of tin cans. He was first scorned and then accepted as an American original. His trademark was the unconventional, and for that he will be long remembered, as Jennifer McLogan now reports.
The man who is said to have kicked the art world in the pants got his art degree in 1949, but the son of Czechoslovakian immigrants who worked as a soda jerk and vegetable salesman was not long for a career of odd jobs in his hometown of Pittsburgh. For Andrew Warhol, his next stop was New York City, where his childlike curiosity would turn the art world upside down, painting soup cans and inventing pop art.
Warhol also ruthlessly mocked the art world itself, and they couldn't get enough of it.
It was commonplace symbols of everyday life that turned him into a celebrity, and it was celebrities themselves who would be captured as never before on canvas by Warhol. Today, his portraits are priceless.
At the time, it was a real sort of revolutionary thing to take those kind of images, popular imagery, and produce them over and over and over again.
Andy Warhol made being seen an art in itself. In New York discos, fashion plate dinners, Kennedy weddings. To movers and shakers of fashion and style, he was their friend, Andy the Genius.
Really, when you think of the most well-known, influential artists in the 20th century, it seems to me you think of Picasso, and right up there is Andy Warhol.
I think that with Andy Warhol, not only the legacy as a celebrity of all levels, but you know, he will go down, I think, as one of the great artists of our century.
Warhol helped make counterculture into high culture, with portraits of the rich and famous.
Andy Warhol made a statement. He made a statement about counterculture, a time.
He's an American classic, you know, like Norman Rockwell or something. Well, this is a lot cooler looking.
Looking into the future, Warhol once said, "Everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. Warhol's fame will last much longer." Jennifer McLogan, NBC News, New York.
And that's our report this Sunday night. Tom Brokaw will be here tomorrow. I'm Chris Wallace in New York. Good night from all of us at NBC News.
Escape to Tahiti with Bob Hope. Isn't it better? And special guests Jonathan Winters, John Denver, and Miss America. From Tahiti, Bob Hope's tropical comedy special. Then, an all-new Perry Mason, in love with a woman whose husband is suspected of murder. Raymond Burr, Gene Simmons, and Gene Barry in a puzzling Perry Mason, Monday.
Everybody knows how to do that kick. Health kick. Yeah. Whoa. The goodness of milk is a real health kick. Health kick. Yeah, milk. You pour a glass of milk real tall, getting calcium and vitamins and loving it all. Looking good. Well, come on, everybody. Milk's that kick. Health kick. Do that kick. Come on, everybody. Do that kick. America's favorite health kick. Milk.
Here are 3 reasons why now is the best time this year to buy your new car at Des Moines Chrysler Plymouth. Your present car is worth more in trade than it'll ever be again. We've got 3.7% APR and rebates up to $1,000. And we've priced every new car we have in stock at just $87 over factory invoice.